This is the dawn of a new era in British karting. Over 550 drivers in 12 classes competing for victory over 18 race weekends. This is the Motorsport UK British Kart Championships. Kieran Gifford has his eyes firmly set on the senior Rotax crown, but he's well aware that his good form in the early season needs to be matched with consistency in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I struggled at qualified 22nd, and then first heat got a 5th, and then second heat just come 9th. Halfway through the dry race it started to rain, so things got interesting, but to get 9th and 15th on the grid, I was really happy with that. So well, the track's a great track. You've got tight corners, fast corners, you go uphill, downhill. It can become a single file race, so you really have to, if you're going to go for a move, you have to do it properly and make sure that it doesn't cause any issues. So around me I've got Guy Cunnington and Oakley Pryor, close in the championship. They're fast boys, so it's, again, if they can keep it consistent, I think as it goes to the last round it'll be really, really close.
Bradley Barrett and Guy Cunnington on the front row of the grid from James Johnson and Reese Hunter. Then Kieran Gifford, championship leader from Sam Stansbury, Jason Lockwood and Lewis Malin. And rounding out the top 10, Jake Douglas and Morgan Rose with Pritchard, Williams and Davis, Clinton and Holbrook, Edmonds and Pryor, McConnell and Lowther, Lewis Halliday, Ryan Luscombe, Jemima Hepworth and Rob Ellis. It's going to be a very busy one this. 15 minutes blast around Gors Park and away we go. Up to the first corner, Bradley Barrett, perfect start. Guy Cunnington slotting in behind him in second place. Nobody's business as they go up the Dragon Straight and up towards the Spoon Curve. A very hectic start as the drivers just putting themselves neatly into position. A little bit of a slide there at the back. That looked to me like one of the Tony karts at the back of the field having a little bit of a moment as Barrett desperately trying to hold fire from Guy Cunnington on the persistence machine as they roll up the compression complex and down the drop to Devil's Elbow. Brilliant pictures from the drone as they go down the hill now up towards Devil's Elbow. And so far a perfectly clean start on the first lap here in senior Rotax at Glan Park. They slot their way through and no problem at all for the 5, Bradley Barrett, as he runs out in front of Guy Cunnington, charging up the hill on the way towards the Spoon Curve. And then it's going to be a battle behind for third position. Cunnington up the inside line and takes the lead of the race. Very nicely done from Cunnington. He's slotted himself in nicely there. Bradley Barrett with very little objection that he can make as they come through the Spoon Curve. Oh, goodness me, it's a bit of a jostle and into the carousel. First Barrett, and then straight in there too comes James Johnson. So Reese Hunter trying to get himself up into third position as well there, I noticed, as Guy Cunnington loses out. But Johnson through into second place, Barrett through into the lead, and Cunnington, I think, a little taken by surprise, the fact that two of them were there on the inside line, and still there's a good jockey for position, but it's Barrett from Johnson, then Cunnington, Hunter is there in fourth position, and then it's Sam Stansbury, Kieran Gifford in sixth position. Here we go up the long straight, up the Dragon Complex, and then up towards the inside line, and very nice move there from one of the Chaos Sports. That looked like Jake Douglas making a move on the inside of George Holbrook, I think that might have been, as they battle away for position. So a really good run. And that is the 5 of Barrett in front of the 6 of Johnson. Cunnington in there from Reese Hunter and Sam Stansbury. Kieran Gifford having a nice battle in there with Jason Lockwood. Well, they are battling for supremacy as they continue to run together. Jason Lockwood for KR Sport. His teammate Kieran Gifford in the mix there as well. And then in behind them, that definitely looks to me like 31 of Lewis Malin. They continue to run forward, but the 5 and 6, DHR 1-2, Bradley Barrett from James Johnson, Guy Cunnington going up the Dragon Straight, trying to keep Reese Hunter at bay. This is quite the mission from Guy Cunnington as he runs in place. Third position, but 3 Dan Holland Racing machines desperately trying to crack through to the podium. 2 of them have already made it there, Barrett and Johnson, but Reese Hunter's trying to get there as well. And in 5th place, that is Sam Stansbury from Lockwood. Then it is the 31 of Malin in front of Gifford, Pritchard, Williams, Douglas, Edmondson, and the 9 of Morgan Rose from Teddy Clinton and Oakley Pryor. George Holbrook in 15th at the moment from James Lowther. Then the 17 of Rob Ellis. And then it is the 14 is next in there. I think that's Jack McConnell as they continue to run through at the end of the lap and into lap 5. 12 minutes on the clock, 3 minutes gone and 4 laps around the Glan Park circuit. It is a quick one as the drivers run through. A very exciting battle in the offing. It's up to 4th. That is the move from Sam Stansbury. So Stansbury's come through into 4th position on Reese Hunter. Obviously he took a little bit too long to get the move on Guy Cunnington, and that was all he needed to surge up to 4th place. So not bad at all from Sam Stansbury. They work their way out of the carousel, up the compression complex and into Devil's Elbow. Through the right and then through the left as they drop down the hill and then up towards Paddock Bend. So they come across the line, no problems at all. Warning flag for Reese Hunter. Well, clearly his defensive moves with Sam Stansbury, or maybe it was another incident altogether, but something has caused him to transgress and the stewards have spotted it, so he's in 5th position with a warning. Lockwood, then Malin, Gifford, Pritchard, Williams and Edmondson. So they come through the spoon curve. Nice overtaking moves in the midfield there. Great to see that the battle is not just at the front end of the field, it's also in the mid-pack. The 37 Stansbury all over the back of Guy Cunnington as they go through the first of these 3 right-handers that make up the compression complex. They run through, and then they will drop into the left-hander that spits you into this corner. Devil's Elbow, big drop as you go through the right-hander. Very easy to lose it in slippery conditions, and it's overcast. We're hoping that rain is not going to fall through the final. 11 minutes on the clock. And Barrett is going very well from Johnson, Cunnington and Stansbury. Reese Hunter trying to get back into it. That's Malin having made the move on Lockwood, I've just noticed there as well. So Lockwood is now back into the path of Gifford and Edmondson. Edmonds, I should say. Tom Edmonds there. My apologies, in the 25. And then it is Pritchard Williams. And of course, there is an Edmondson in this race. That is, of course, Harvey Edmondson. So it's very easy to get them confused. The 55 in the mix there. In fact, about to come into shot by the look of it. Just in behind the 14. And then the E-plate of Luke Wooder, who's having a horrific weekend. Right the way down at the back of the field, unfortunately. And struggling to make good progress. So not the race weekend he wanted. 10 minutes on the clock, so we're 5 minutes in, 10 to go, and Barrett still runs well in front of Johnson. Cunnington going well in 3rd position, looks over his right shoulder, and Stansbury is right there. Then it's Hunter, Malin, Lockwood, Gifford, Edmonds is up into 9th place now past Pritchard Williams. And then in 11th place it is Jake Douglas from the 9 of Morgan Rose, and then Clinton, Pryor, Holbrook, Lowther, Davis, and then Rob Ellis in front of Ben Burgess and Jack McConnell, with Luke Wooder just in front of Ryan Luscombe in their battle down the order. But it's not going well really this weekend for Luke Wooder. This is a bit of a write-off of a weekend here at Glan, and the hope for him is that when they get to Clay Pigeon, they'll have a much stronger time behind the wheel. So across the line again comes Bradley Barrett into his 8th lap of racing. This is going to be a very interesting battle for all of the competitors. 15 minutes plus the additional lap is what the drivers get in terms of allotted time. So when the time runs out, they cross the finish line, and that will be the beginning of the last lap. As it always has been, there are long finals in this Motorsport UK British Kart Championship season, which the drivers, I have to say, pretty much unanimously absolutely adore. They love the challenge of going wheel to wheel for that length of time. It really tests the... Oh, that's a problem for James Lowther. James Lowther in trouble. So the kart is coming to a stop on the way up the hill. There he is, James Lowther, in massive difficulty. Mechanical problems for him, and he is likely now to join James Walker on the sideline. Jaden Walker, sorry, on the sideline. The 81 is out of the race, and it looks to me as though James Lowther is going to do the same. That is a real shame and a big problem from his point of view. So disaster for those two, as they were really hoping for a better showing, and it's not quite going to work out that way. Side by side, up the Dragon Straight. Oh, and Harrison's got a mechanical flag. Sam Harrison, unfortunately, now has a mechanical flag to deal with. Well, you've got to say that's a bitter disappointment for Sam Harrison. He was really hoping for a better showing than that, and I'm afraid just a lap after James Lowther's mechanical problems, it looks to me as though he is now out of the race as well. Effectively, the mechanical flag ends your race. I'm not sure what it's for, sadly. For Sam Harrison, it is game over regardless, and it's not going to make him feel any better about the situation at all. Lap 10 is completed now. And then it's Johnson from Stansbury, Cunnington, Hunter. 31 is next, that's Malin. And then it is Edmonds, Gifford, Lockwood and Pritchard Williams. And there's a great jostle up the hill. The 44 pulls across. He knows he's got the mechanical flag, so there's no point debating the fact. So unfortunately his race is over, and that is a real shame and a big problem to the system as far as he's concerned. He was hoping for a lot more from GYG than this. So Sam Harrison will join Jaden Walker and James Lowther on the sidelines as the race continues without him. So now they come down into the next lap. Lap number 12 begins as the drivers push on up the hill. A bit of a delay in our timing screen by the look of it, but there it is. Yep, 12 laps is, well, on the 12th lap I should say, 11 laps are completed. Barrett, Johnson, Cunnington and Hunter, then Stansbury and Edmonds from Lewis Malin, who has dropped back into 7th position on the comp car. Not quite sure what happened there, but look at these two having pulled out an amazing gap. They are edging each other further away. A 1-2 finish looking more than likely for the Dan Holland Racing crew as they run in 1st and 2nd. Cunnington 3rd, then Hunter, Stansbury, Edmonds, Malin, and then it is Gifford, Lockwood and Pritchard Williams from Jake Douglas and Teddy Clinton. Oakley Pryor 13th from George Holbrook, and then Morgan Rose from Ben Burgess and Luke Wooder. Jack McConnell, Rob Ellis, James Lingard, Ryan Luscombe and the 26 of Sam Baker on the Gillard chassis, now up to 22nd. It's largely because of several other incidents that have happened over the course of the last few laps and have made him a little bit easier to get up through the field. So now Guy Cunnington is actually, instead of trying to close up on Barrett and Johnson, trying to fend off Reese Hunter, who is getting very, very feisty. Let's watch. There he is. He's actually got through on Sam Stansbury in the last couple of laps, which is why he's now upping the ante. But Stansbury's struggling to keep in front of Tom Edmonds on the KR Sport. And Lewis Malin, Kieran Gifford, Jason Lockwood and Teddy Pritchard Williams. They'll drop through the chicane and up towards the start-finish line once again. Barrett and Johnson out of the first corner. They continue on their way. 5 minutes and 41 left on the clock as they come through. No major difficulties for Guy Cunnington at the front end of the field. They come up the Dragon Straight. That was the 9 and Morgan Rose just going through the shop before we left it. Oh, side by side out of the Spoon Curve. Some great battles in the midfield. That looked to me like we were getting a bit of a battle there between Douglas and Pritchard Williams. Douglas trying to get the move on the inside, and I'm not sure if he actually managed to pull off the move or not. I think it might be a stalemate between those two. In fact, it is. So Pritchard Williams still in front of Douglas. But now a few problems there. It looks like Kieran Gifford's fallen out of the fray. Either that or he's got a faulty transponder. It's always hard to tell with these things. There it is. He has got a faulty transponder. I thought I saw him go through. There's the E-plate of Luke Wooder. He's up to 16th place now, actually, Luke Wooder. So doing very well. And has made up a lot of progress. So he's finally starting to cut his way through the field, but it's taken him a long time to get up to that point. So any chance, really, of breaking into the top 10 is severely compromised. Not impossible in 4.5 minutes or so, plus the additional lap, but Wood has definitely made life hard for himself, struggling to get through. But this is not the easiest circuit to overtake on. He's done the best he can with what he's got. The 17 going through, that's Ellis, then Lingard, Luscombe and Baker. And here come the leaders over the line. No problem at all for Barrett and Johnson, still edging away from the rest of the field. They've got a massive advantage now on Guy Cunnington in 3rd. It's over a second and a half. And then Reese Hunter in 4th position from Edmonds. Stansbury. So Stansbury slipping to 6th position now. Not easy for him to stay with the leading pack anymore. As they go down out of the Spoon Curve, down Damon Hill and up towards the carousel. Still these two, the blue and yellow machines of Dan Holland Racing's Barrett and Johnson, running in the lead of the race, from Cunnington in 3rd and in 4th Reese Hunter, who is just 1 position away from a total DHR eclipse of the podium if they can get there. So Bradley Barrett is your leader, despite what that timing screen says. Jemima Hepworth is a very talented racing driver that is not currently leading the race by 25 seconds as she was showing a moment ago. She actually had a brilliant weekend, of course, at Mansell Raceway a few weeks ago, and unfortunately was not quite able to reap the benefits of the amazing speed she showed. She was 4th on the road in the first final, but then a discrepancy with non-compliance dropped her down the order, and then she ended up in the first corner war zone. And that ended her weekend, but she's definitely got the potential to run up at the front with these boys. So Barrett, Johnson, Cunnington and Edmonds, Reese Hunter and Sam Stansbury. Lewis Malin doing a cracking job there in 7th place, still managing to hold off Kieran Gifford, not just any driver, the championship leader nonetheless. So a good work here from Lewis Malin, who's definitely found his rhythm. There is Gifford, the 71, going through, so these guys are definitely going to gain some massive ground. If they are 1st and 2nd and Kieran Gifford is only in P8, then it's definitely going to turn the tide a little bit. Barrett and Johnson have stretched out a 1.5 seconds in the last few laps, and they have pretty much kept that position solid. Pritchard Williams on the 96 goes through at the head of the leading pack for 9th position downwards. Then Douglas, Clinton, Pryor, Holbrook, Rose and Lockwood all in there. Wooder has joined that queue actually in 16th place. So Wooder is at the back of this queue. Here they come. You'll see the E-plate right at the back of it. There he is. He's caught up to the back of Jason Lockwood. So he's hoping for an opportunity to get through. And some good comeback drives in this one, but Jason Lockwood's really struggled from originally 7th on the grid. He's now down to 15th. It's always a pretty tricky grid, senior Rotax, very ultra competitive. And 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock, plus the additional lap afterwards. It's a really exciting battle. Up the Dragon Straight again. Still, this battle absolutely loggerheads as Cunnington runs in front of Edmonds and Hunter now. So Edmonds through into 4th position. So he's managed to break the deadlock again and up into P4. So a nice move then from Edmonds. There he is. Now he's all over the back of Guy Cunnington. Can he make the move into third position? Because those two have definitely dropped Hunter. I think he's got a tyre issue, Reese Hunter. Maybe he's pushed them a little bit too hard and he's having to be a little bit more conservative in the latter stages of the race. We've only got a minute and a half or so, plus the additional lap on top of it. This battle's amazing. Pritchard Williams in front of Douglas, Pryor, Clinton, Holbrook, Rose and Luke Wooder. Very close indeed together. Jason Lockwood's in the middle of all that as well, so that means that Wooder's got past Lockwood into 15th place. Is there going to be a final challenge from James Johnson on Bradley Barrett? You've got to remember that while they are in the same team, karting has never really had the reputation of being a team sport. Johnson will want to win this race just as much as Bradley Barrett. Yes, they've got 1.8 seconds on Cunnington, but they're not going to finish 1-2 in formation. They are going to race each other over the course of the remaining 2 laps of the race for the victory. They are going to push absolutely tooth and nail to get it done. So Barrett, Johnson, just a tenth of a second, nearly 2 between the two of them, but it's going to be a very tight battle as Johnson now goes into what is the penultimate lap, I'm fairly sure. We might get another lap out of it, actually, thinking about it. The Dragon Straight is coming up. Let's see how they're going to battle with it. Barrett and Johnson come through. Great racing in the mid-pack as well, as that is one of the Coles carts trying to make progress up through the field. It's certainly not James Lowther, because he was in the mix earlier on. So I think that is going to be one of the competitors. That's going to be Morgan Rose, we were watching there, battling with the 2 DHRs of Teddy Clinton and George Holbrook, who joined each other on the 7th row of the grid. Barrett and Johnson are going to come through, and I think they are going to get an additional lap as well. So that, yes, penultimate lap begins now, in fact, as Barrett and Johnson go through. Cunnington, 1.7 seconds deficit to these two, and now this is when James Johnson's really going to start hammering it home. Up the Dragon Straight, through the right-hander, and up to the hairpin, through the spoon curve. Barrett and Johnson will run well. Cunnington's still within 2 seconds firing distance of them, trying to shake off Edmonds. But Hunter, Stansbury, Malin and Gifford are not a million miles away, and then Pritchard Williams in 9th place, leading the cavalry of Douglas, Pryor, Clinton, Wood are now to 13th in front of Rose, and then Holbrook and Lockwood. Burgess is not that far away either. There's only 7/10 of a second back. You can see him there on the 13, and he's a good 4 seconds nearly up the road from Rob Ellis. But the time has run down to 0, as you can see, and that means that the race leaders are going to be going on to the final lap as we watch a little bit of the midfield battle continuing on. That was the 86 of Ben Davis running around with the 47, his teammate Alexander Baker. As we go into the final lap, it's going to be a tough one for Barrett and Johnson to hang on to their victory with a clean run. Oh, there's a big lunge up the inside there from Jake Douglas, trying to get Pritchard Williams on the run to spoon. But Johnson's trying everything he can to get close to Bradley Barrett. We're on the 23rd and what is to be the final lap here. And as they come into the compression complex for the last time, it's going to be a really interesting opportunity for Barrett. He's going to take a victory here. I don't think Johnson's going to be close enough. Through Devil's Elbow, they drop out through the left-hander and then into the final corner. And it's a victory for Bradley Barrett. He takes the win in front of James Johnson. Brilliant effort. Guy Cunnington snatches 3rd place from Edmonds and Hunter. Stansbury in 6th place from Malin and Gifford. And how about that? A sporting finish between the two teammates. No fisticuffs, no shenanigans. And they bring the DHR carts home in 1 and 2. And a brilliant race then in senior Rotax. Nice and smooth, some good battles, great overtaking through the field. And some terrific comeback drives, it has to be said. Some really appreciative performances there in the field. And I think there's going to be quite a few very happy faces there. So Brad Barrett keeping his pole position and managing to end up with a victory at the end of it all. Johnson overtaking Guy Cunnington for 2nd place in front of the Persistence Motorsport driver. And Edmonds is up 11 places to 4th in front of Reese Hunter from Lewis Malin and Kieran Gifford. Sam Stansbury post-race, unfortunately looking likely with a front fairing penalty. Pritchard Williams, Jake Douglas gets the same penalty. Oakley Pryor and Teddy Clinton. And then Morgan Rose, Jason Lockwood and George Holbrook. Ben Burgess and Luke Wooder, who drops back to 17th on the last lap after a scrappy lap. Rob Ellis in 18th. A front fairing for Jack McConnell doesn't cost him a position. He remains 19th. And then it's Davis from Baker, Storer and Luscombe. And then we have Lewis Halliday in front of Jemima Hepworth, Harvey Edmondson and Finlay Sword. And then our 4 retirements, James Lingard, Sam Harrison, James Lowther and Jaden Walker. But it's a 1-2 for Dan Holland Racing. Bradley Barrett in front of James Johnson, with Guy Cunnington in 3rd position. Fabulous work. As the Rotax classes arrive at Glan Gors in the beautiful Welsh countryside, Kieran Gifford has his eyes firmly set on the senior Rotax crown. but he's well aware that his good form in the early season needs to be matched with consistency in the second half of the year.
Yeah, it was quite a slow race, to be honest. Brad got a good start. We slotted in behind Brad, got past Brad up the hill, and then Brad went back in down the hill. So yeah, it was a good move. James got past, and then that was it from there. It was quite a standard race, not much happened from my half.
Well, I sort of just came into it with a clear head, you know, not really expecting much sort of thing, just come to really enjoy myself, and got a good result. In the second final, we were following Brad. Brad went for a move on Guy, we followed it through. Seemed to get away from Guy a little bit and just couldn't catch Brad, but on the last lap we were just about close enough, just didn't have enough sort of thing.
Yeah, throughout the race they were really pushing me to try and keep consistent times, and it was a long race. It was like 20 odd laps, and it was quite difficult to try and stay in front of them, but I managed to keep James off towards the end. I was looking behind, being a bit anxious, but we looked down the main straight on the last lap and noticed that I had a big enough gap, and just tried to make sure it was going to stay all clean sailing until the end. I love the chance to get both of the final wins for the championship. It's brought me a lot closer to the leaders now. Finally in the chance to actually get on to first place in the championship, and I'm looking forward to the last 2 rounds.